And you're live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Action in Retail session, Data-Driven Retail, Transforming Data into Profitable Customer Experiences. I'm Barbara Thau, Senior Features Editor of Digital Business Publication Co. from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, coming to you from New York City. So in this panel discussion, we're going to unpack and demystify how to use data to build profit-generating relationships with consumers. And you'll hear about how one store adapted and actually thrived throughout COVID-19, which is pretty remarkable. So it's no secret that the pandemic has upended the retail industry. Lockdowns forced stores to go dark across the country. At the same time, e-commerce has soared. It's up a staggering 76%, 76% from 2019, the same period a year ago, according to Adobe Analytics. Retailers have been pivoting in real time to meet consumers' changing shopping behaviors, which continue to unfurl and shift as the nation navigates this pandemic. So the crisis has unprecedentedly hammered the retail sector, but there's one shining light. Data has emerged essentially as retailers' saving grace. So how so? It's no less a survival and revival tool. For example, it's customer data that's enabled small and mid-sized retailers to swiftly pivot from in-store to contactless payments solutions as consumers do not want to touch amid social distancing. Curbside pickup has soared. Data has been critical to offsetting business lost from store closures because of these contactless solutions and generated much needed, desperate alternative revenue streams. Another example, it was data from visual search engine, Pinterest, on what consumers in crisis mode were thinking in real time that helped merchants devise tonally appropriate hyper-relevant marketing campaigns for consumers' really fragile psyches. These included ads around self-care themes, like meditation for beginners, at-home fitness workouts from outdoor sporting goods retailer REI that talked about how to work out and social distance well, Bed Bath & Beyond's ads around home nesting, all drawing from customer sentiment data when it is that much more critical to be tonally on message. So quite simply, data offers retailers actionable insights that can generate a return on investment. That's always been the case, but it's critical more so than ever now. So I'm welcoming our panelists now who are experts who can unpack just that. Would love to have you say hello to Stephanie Fontaine. Stephanie, nice to meet you again, and thank you for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Thank you, Barbara. My name is Stephanie Fontaine. Along with my mom and my sister, we own a small business that carries women's accessories, jewelry, and gifts located in Collegeville, Pennsylvania. So thanks so much for having me today.
Thank you for joining us. So what's the name of your store again, please?
Her Hideout.
Her Hideout. I like that. Thank you for joining us. And
Thank you.
Alex Tarian, so great to meet with you today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So, Alex, I come from Lightspeed, a POS company, and at Lightspeed, I specifically work in the professional services department for SMBs all the way up to the mid-market. But prior to joining Lightspeed, I started a local company here that did by appointment bike shops, and we're still actually a Lightspeed customer. So I'm going to try to bring all sorts of perspective to this conversation. Thanks again for having me.
Perspective. Thank you for being here. And we have Scott Bueltzer. Good to be with you. Thank you. Tell us about yourself, please.
Absolutely. Great to be here. So my name is Scott Bueltzer. I'm the CEO and founder of a software company called Ascent 360. And our software aggregates data, puts it together, builds models, and lets retailers use that data in smart ways. So I think the conversation today is quite relevant.
Excellent. Well, we are lucky, and what a wonderful, great, diverse group with different perspectives. I thought we'd kickstart the conversation off today with a little lightning round question, like with some 30-second answers. The question is, so how do you each believe data will work to not only revive, because we don't want to just, come back, but also enhance retail operations as we stare down not only the second half of actually it's beyond the second half, right? The remainder of 2020 and beyond. So Alex, let's start with you. So
Hey,
reviving and enhancing.
did you have to remind me it was already the second half, eh? That's what
I
I'm just going to
know,
start
I
with that. Okay. So yeah, I think you nailed it on the head earlier when you're talking about data emerging with new platforms and helping retailers take decisions. Ultimately, to us, data is a way to support decisions. I think retailers are very intuitive, passion-driven, and looking to reach similarly minded customers. And that to me is where data is going to definitely come help and support that intuition that sometimes just needs to be confirmed or challenged.
Exactly. And Scott, what do you have to say?
Right. Yeah, so I think that data is already having a massive impact on retail operations, and you know the data that's associated with your customer, their tastes, their preferences, their purchase history, you know, even their geo data will become more and more important. And I think the idea is, well, how do you get some of that data? How do you use it, and how do you use it in kind of a simple way? What we do know, and this is according to American Express, that 83% of millennials are willing to trade their personal information for a personalized experience. And it's become an expectation, right? That they actually expect that there's some sort of personalized experience. And I think what you're hearing them actually say is that, like, if you get to know me and treat me like a person, I'm going to do the same for you in return. And I think that's actually a really healthy aspect of data.
Just for our readers, geo data meaning location-specific data, right?
Yeah,
And you
exactly right. Certainly where they live, or if they've got a phone, where they actually are.
So customer profiles are one critical element to determining how a retailer determines what to buy, how to market, and ultimately how to generate a profit. So when we talk about customer profiles, just to unpack what that means: demographic, psychographic elements, and so forth. And so for Alex, I'm curious about the tangible benefits of incorporating loyalty data and into retail marketing efforts today, but also against the backdrop of this health crisis.
Right. So there's so many reasons, right, to know who you're selling to and making sure you're reaching the right person. There's obviously, we can just bring it back to the basics, right? If you want to offer something, and I believe Stephanie has done this at her store, which is just pick up, you do some curbside pickup or some contactless pickup. Even that little interaction there, you need to know who's coming, what time, and you need to collect accurate data. So even in the backdrop of COVID, we don't need to start thinking at, necessarily enhancing, just at supporting new flows that aren't necessarily geared at targeting customers. We see this a lot, like, I need data so that I can target customers and make more money. Very true. But sometimes you also just need data to just help with the process, like offering contactless pickup during a moment where, hey, that door has to be locked, right? And oddly enough, I think Stephanie will share some experiences, but it brings us closer. There's literally a locked door between us and the customer, and we're closer than ever.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. It's not just about Barbara likes blue shirts, but
right.
What's her? Where does she want? Where is she? And how do we get her curbside? How do we facilitate the transaction? I think that's, you know what I mean. It's just the basic transactional fluidity that is part of this. Yeah, doesn't sound as sexy, but it is clearly saving retail, right? And I think, I was curious about that whole notion of, and I think Scott, you had something to say about connecting the dots between loyalty. I had something more to say about that, about loyalty and the consumer loyalty data and and customer segments. And
yeah, absolutely.
Unpacking like the meaty relationship there.
Yeah, I think the question is what is loyalty data? And it's not necessarily just data from your loyalty program. If you've got a loyalty program, that's fantastic. But what we know is that some of your best customers are not going to be part of the loyalty program. But these are people who, make purchases from you, maybe make many purchases from you, right? If someone walks into your store and you actually know that they bought 3 watches from you last year and they spent $5,000, well, that's an enormous amount of loyalty data. and you want to be able to act on that information when you're talking to them. And I know that they'll actually be disappointed if that doesn't happen, right? They want to be treated like a VIP if they in fact are a VIP. And so thinking about all that data, do they leave reviews on your website? Have they left product reviews? Have they visited your website 15 times and have been looking for something and they can't find it? All those sort of things is like starting to build a profile of knowing your customer. And if you know your customer, you can certainly interact with them in a much more profound way. And I know a lot of people think or say kind of like, hey, there's big data, and that's what American Express uses because they have a billion transactions. And I think what's important is that when you think about even just having, if you had 10,000 customers in your database, you can't possibly manage 10,000 of anything in your head. You can't even scroll through 10,000. And then you think, well, if I'm going to add some ratings and review history and some purchase history, it's all of a sudden too much. And it starts being, well, how do you turn that data into something that is very simple, right? That this customer is a budget sensitive family or part of a budget sensitive family, that then you know enough to start acting on it. So I think the meaty takeaway is like, use the loyalty data, pull it all together, but make it simple and act on it in as simple a way as possible.
Thank you. And so that sort of segues nicely into what Alex was going to just talk about a little bit, which is what are some of the best practices that you're actually hearing that are driving customer engagement from clients in terms of how they're bonding and engaging with shoppers via data, piggybacking on what Scott just talked about, that are working.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different strategies that you can take, and oftentimes they're not the ones that we initially think of. One of the most common questions I get is, what's a really good promotion to generate more money, or specifically, what kind of discounting should I offer? I mean, shoppers are smart. They know that it's like, if you're just going to throw a discount at something, then they're expecting you to maybe do it again, right? But if you get their name right when you send them a message, that's something that's worth more than you taking a hit on your margin, right? So it could be as simple as something like, well, I'm going to send a personalized email to you, and that alone can drive your business up without even having to take a hit on your margin. Likewise, this is the one that I like saying the most, but there's something called a no strings attached type of promotion, which if you're going to give something away at a cost to you, just give it away completely, right? Just make it a thing. Come in my store and we'll give you something that we know you're going to use. Maybe not something I'm going to miss too much, but we know we're going to use, and remind you every day that you got this for free, because obviously as a retailer, you're not expected to ever give anything away, right? So as a shopper, all right, well, they're doing me a favor. They're not just, cutting into their margin. So I always like to say, start small. Even simpler, just run a report of your top spenders and maybe send them a little personalized message. They're going to come back. They're already your top spenders in the first place.
And hasn't that, what you just described, that ethos has taken on a whole new meaning amid this climate of people in this pandemic? Are you finding that that clients are tapping more into that amid the pandemic?
Well, it's setting the stage for kind of the world that we want to see, which is that sort of personalized world. Just historically, right, we've always kind of geared the way that we sell to the customer who could walk in at any time, not necessarily to the customer we know who's going to be walking in and we know very well. We definitely want to cater to them, but it was always more about catering to those that are just going to at any time can or could not come into your store. When we looked at actually starting our bike shop, we wanted to make it by appointment, and we felt that might actually cause friction. We went through with it anyways, even though it was kind of a new way to do things, and it did cause a bit of friction to have to tell people, no, you need to book an appointment. We need to know who you are before you come in. Mm-hmm. Now, for, kind of entirely selfish sort of reasons, is a very good time to say, hey, due to the circumstances, we're going to change how we do things, and we're going to collect a bit more information so that we can put your safety first, as well, we kind of all have to sort of play our part into this. So yes, people my age are definitely more in tune to give out their personal information, but I think now as well, if I want to, do my part in trying to get things back on track, I need to do this as well and take part. So it's a perfect time for retailers to start new data collection and try new things.
Absolutely. So Stephanie, you had a very just an interesting, wonderful sort of success story that came out of this horribleness. Is that a word, horribleness? I'm going to make that word up. So if you can share, I would love to hear about how how her hideout distinctly benefited from loyalty data and personalized relationship marketing. And all these terms are so like woo-woo and kind of become a little, but it's really a story about that, like how you and your store pivoted during this upheaval.
Sure. So just to give everyone a background, pre-pandemic, our store really was always blessed with having great foot traffic of customers. While we have a strong email list that we would constantly send out marketing blasts to, or, we're big advocates of social media posts, when COVID hit us, we completely closed and realized quickly that we weren't opening anytime soon. So for us, we really had to take our current marketing strategies and say, how are we going to sell our products when our doors are completely shut? So for us, we had to really take a look at, from a marketing perspective, what are we doing and how can we, with our hands tied, get our products out to people? So in the beginning, we realized that a bunch of our customers were still calling us on the phone saying, even though, you're closed, I still need to, ship this birthday gift to a customer. I still need to get a graduation gift for someone. So we quickly realized that we needed to find another avenue to sell our products. So I would say 2 weeks into our store being completely shut down, we decided to look into running our business as an additional kind of stream through e-commerce. So we decided to create a website. We decided to load as many products as we could, as quickly as we could, to be able to kind of satisfy that customer who is still wanting our products. But obviously during the current constraints of COVID and the pandemic, we could not open our doors and have them shop with us.
So you were not online before this? You were not online?
We were not online before this.
Wow. Okay. It's a big dramatic shift. Yeah.
Yeah. And mentally, it sounds funny to me now because when you think about it, we just naturally thought, oh, e-com is a heavy lift. Like, how are we going to do this? How are we ever going to run a website or, even get all of our different items online? And now I look back and almost laugh at my very naive self, because for us now, fast forward, e-com will now be a huge line of revenue for our store. And it sounds funny to think that we had even questioned that in the past. So, that for us has been this gem through a pandemic, is the fact that e-com has been this almost eye-opening stream of revenue that we never even thought of really proceeding with before. Now, tied to that, so again, previous to the pandemic, we had offered a very simple loyalty program here, which was, for every dollar a customer spends with us equals a point. Once they hit 350 points, we send them a $20 reward. So part of our e-com revamp was, now when someone had purchased with us through our e-com website, they could also sign up for her Hideout Rewards Club, which gave them that same loyalty spend. So same thing, if they spend $1 with us online, equal to point, you hit 350, you got that $20 reward. So for customers who were existing in our store, who were already signed up for loyalty, they were like, oh great, I can order online now and also still take advantage of my points. And for new customers, they looked at it like, oh, I'm part of a rewards club, and really bridged that whole personalized shopping experience. Now, to piggyback on what Alex had mentioned before, one thing for our store specifically during this pandemic, our state, while we were closed, did not allow retail to do any kind of curbside pickup. So we had to figure out, yes, there's customers who are okay just placing the order online and us shipping it to them. But we found a need specifically in our community where customers wanted to almost be able to still pick up their gift from us. So we put our heads together and thought of something called contactless pickup for our customers. So what that would be is they place their order online, and instead of selecting shipping upon checkout, they were selecting the contactless pickup option. So when they did contactless pickup, we'd proceed with their order. We'd have it in a bag labeled with their name on it and actually place it in a bin outside of our store's front door. Once they placed that online order, we had basically a calendar app that we used that they could select in 10-minute increments their scheduled pickup time. So they'd be pulling up to our front parking spot at their time. They'd see their bag in a bin and never have to actually interact with us, which heightened that whole level of not everyone's comfortable. There was doors locked between us, so we could still see that nothing was happening to their bag, but it gave them the ability to quote unquote shop safe without having to, put themselves in any kind of predicament with seeing someone live in person. And it kept our employees safe at this time as well. So contactless pickup was a huge, huge, huge success for us. And even though as of today, we are open to some capacity again for customers within our store, contactless pickup is still being used and used often. And that is a different way for us that I truly believe, from a small business retail perspective, will not go away anytime soon.
Absolutely. And how would you say, how much business, or not, I'm not asking for sales, but what percentage of your transactions, is it like 20%? Is it how will you quantify that interest among your consumers?
Yeah, so I would say as far as online orders go, I would say about 40% of our online business choose the contactless pickup option. And then from there, one interesting part, and kind of going back to like how data links to loyalty, links to, that personalized shopping experience for us here. One thing that has always differentiated our store was the fact we offer complimentary gift wrap. So our customers know that when they come into our store and shop, if they're headed straight to a party or know that they don't want to deal with the hassle with wrapping something, our associates will gift wrap for them. So we made sure on our e-com website that each item they could check if they'd like it gift wrapped. So we still have customers today who choose contactless pickup and also check, please gift wrap my order. And it's sitting there outside of our store, pre-gift wrap, ready for them to take on their way. So it's really linking together that personalized shopping experience. Because, I'm a consumer myself. Emotion is built into this time. With everything going on in the world, you have that emotion and that emotional shopping where you want to feel trusted with that person who's behind your business. So you do have to make every different customer experience positive, and you have to figure out ways in which, your own little retail environment within your shop can really make everyone trust you and your brand.
Alex, Stephanie is describing this way of of her shop, her hideout, right? Becoming personal. It's high touch, yet she's low touch. And you talked about a little bit, so the marrying of the digital with touch. And I think that there was something you had to say about virtual personal shoppers and the potential and the opportunity there.
Yeah, for sure. This is something that personally, I've believed in for a long time, because it's how we sort of structured our business. And it's, for us, it just kind of helped us out a lot, just to say tell us who you are and what you want, and then we'll be ready for you. And we'll make the whole experience better. It also kind of, now working years later in business, realized that we had really, really good leads. Almost everyone who came in to buy, because they weren't just coming in to browse. They knew they were taking our time. They were sharing their information, not to put a number on it, but I'd say 9 out of 10 people who would come would leave with a purchase, because that was their intention at that time when they reserved that time slot to come. So newer retailers, even larger ones, the one I'm very comfortable naming is Decathlon, one of the largest European merchants, very similar in size to like a Target, but more sports focused. Even they implemented the very, very same software that we had implemented in our tiny little bike shop to do personalized shopping, because, well, regulations are regulations. You could only get so many people in your store, so may as well make sure that they're catered to 100%. and basket sizes go up, average purchases go up, and just generally the experience, everybody comes out a winner. Just with like, yeah, just putting that little bit of a barrier there, you kind of weed out those that are not going to be spending and just making a great experience for those that do want to spend.
That Scott, I'm curious about, and piggybacking back off what Alex said, just the basic idea, and I know we didn't talk about this necessarily, but I think you'd be great to answer this in terms of capturing that data. I feel like that, is there something to be said that's not said about the best practices for capturing it on a very basic level, that a small retailer and a national chain can benefit from, for Scott?
Yeah. So let me dig into some best practices around capturing data, but I'd also note that there's two questions in the Q&A.
Yes.
And one is, what are some of the best data gained from retail that I should seek? And another says, from a customer management perspective, what type of data points should I prioritize? So let me answer the capture and those two questions at the same time.
Sounds good.
So I think when capturing data, it's most important to just start simple. And that's when you want to think about, well, how do I capture some contact information from the consumer? And I would certainly prioritize the email address. It's important to remember that Amazon captures 100% of the time, right? They're getting name, address, phone, email on every one of their consumers. What we are seeing.
Let me interrupt you. That is so important. So I want you to say that again, please. Amazon captures. Say that again.
Yeah, well, 100% of the contact and customer information, on every single transaction.
How would that compare with like a Walmart, or not? Is it are they unparalleled in what they capture?
Well, I think it is unparalleled, but we work with small retailers who've set goals and KPIs, and what we see probably is kind of best in class is around 85% capture on transactions above some dollar amount, like $25 or something like that. And they set that as a goal. They don't necessarily, well, if someone buys, $1.50 in granola bars or something, no one's going to trade their email for that. But what I would suggest to everyone listening to this is to operationalize data capture, right? And that is, first of all, create KPIs, make it an expectation.
Key performance indicators for anybody,
Yep. And if you want to start at 50%, start there. But you do need to provide incentives to your organization, right? To your staff members. You also need to deliver training and scripts, right? If they just simply say, give me your email address, it isn't going to go over all that well. But, if what they say instead is, well, I'd love to send you an email receipt, and that'll also, enable us to send you personalized offers, then someone's like, all right, yeah, I can be on board with that, right? So deliver them training and scripts, and also let the front line see the value of the data, right? If they think that, I don't even know why I'm capturing this data, and if the answer is, look, this is going to keep this business healthy, it's going to keep us, keeping our best customers happy, then that's fantastic. So, educate them, reward them with personalized messaging, but also think about, well, what technology do I want to put onto this thing? You probably want to have some email receipt. If you can have some self-service kiosks or tablets in the store, that'll also help the capture rate.
Excellent. I want to just see, maybe Stephanie might be interesting to hear from your perspective. This is one of the questions. And what did you find was, so the question is, from a customer management perspective, what type of data points should I prioritize? Stephanie, what did you find to be some of the more profitable, effective data points that really resulted in sales?
Yeah, so for us, and I'll speak to this specifically because I think pre-pandemic and obviously current, times are two different things. But for us in our small business, especially VIP customers, you need to segment your VIP customers from your one-time purchasers or people who are inconsistent purchasers. So for us, prioritizing those customers and finding out who are those frequent spenders within our store, or who is that customer that may stop in weekly. It's looking at the data, but really first for us, what's most important is who are those customers who are at your doorstep every time that same name is popping up, and they're the ones who are spending the money, and making sure that you have identified those first, because VIPs in a business could represent a lot larger percentage than you think. So I would say one of the first data points you'd be prioritizing is who are your VIP customers. And then the second would be really to look at, what link do you have to measure? So for us, we collect as much data as we possibly can. When a customer is in front of us, we're getting their name, their mailing address, their email, the month of their birthday, in case we decide in the future to run a specific birthday promotion. We're now signing them up for our loyalty program. Well, that loyalty program, in order to enroll, you have to provide your cell phone. That will send you a one-time text message. So down the road, if we decide we want to do any kind of phone, mass text messaging capabilities, we already have their cell phone number. So doing different promotions and using that data, you can take it in baby steps, but you also want to make sure if that customer is in front of you, you're collecting as much information you have as possible. And that even includes their purchasing history. So with a customer of ours, if they purchase something from us and they're standing in front of our register, we're asking them, are you on our customer list? And if they're on our customer list and we ring something under their name, I could pull up anything they've ever bought from us, period. So from that data, I can then kind of generate, let's say we want to do a marketing piece on a certain brand. I'll be able to pull then what customer specifically in the past had purchased that brand. So it's really looking at all data and being able to kind of to weed through it in the way that it could be used in the future, but also prioritizing the fact that if the customer is in front of you, try to get as much as possible, because you might not see them again for months. But that doesn't mean that they're not reading their emails when you send them an email, and can't think of your store first because they know that you've created that experience with them in the past.
Excellent. Thank you. So Scott, this is a question for you. Can you, it's Amazon, because it's all about Amazon a lot, but there's other retailers too, like her hideout. Scott, okay, so how can you expand on how I can do what Amazon does? This is a great question. As a smaller business, you said they capture all customer data. Any particular concrete ways?
So so it's really like, well, how do you leverage your data? And maybe start with the goal in mind, right? And that is, you want to create and maintain a bond of loyalty between you and your customers that's going to last a lifetime. And if you think about what that looks like operationally, it's how do you act like that corner hardware store from 50 years ago when someone walked in and the owner looks at him and says, hey, how's that deck project going? And he says, oh, I got the posts in, but I'm not exactly sure how to align the beams. He says, well, come on over here. I'll show you this tool, and we're going to use this. And here, here's what I suggest. And it's because that guy knows everything about the person who just walked in and the project that they're working on. And so how do you do that? How does Amazon do that? But it's a little bit like what Stephanie said, right? So if you start with the customer data, and then you've got attach that, you attach all the purchases, right? So then you know what purchases someone's made. If you send them an email and they click on it and they open it, some interest from that person. If they then visit your website, you're connecting that into what visits they're enacting on your website. And so using some tools, and all that data is in Lightspeed, or the platform that Ascent 360 builds, puts all this together. And I'd almost urge you to stop by our trade show booth and take a quick look at the software. But the idea is, if you can do all this sort of stuff, then you can start personalizing the message and make it simple. Like Stephanie said, use a model like RFM, right? Recency, frequency, monetary. That is a simple model that tells you your most recent customers, the most frequently purchasing, and the highest monetary value. That is a model that has very high predictive power. And if you treat those customers, the best customers, very well, they'll keep coming back. And that's going to keep you in business, right? The one-time customer isn't going to keep you in business. I would finally just kind of end with, right? So what we know is that 70% of companies don't personalize their email marketing messages, and that's from Experian. And we also know that if you do personalize it, 29% higher open rates, 41% higher click-through rates. So there might be a cost in, hey, it's going to take you more time to make that email, but the return is there for sure. Well,
I want to direct this to all of you guys. The questions are flying in, so we want to get through I'd love to start with Alex with this one. How do you approach different demographics? This is a good one. When trying to obtain their personal data, contact information, I've noticed that younger generations are more accustomed to giving this info, whereas older 50 to 70-year-olds are more skeptical. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, for sure. And at the same time, I also want to address, I think, something that I kind of keep seeing coming up too. We brought up Amazon. They are definitely like the ones who do it most, but it's also unfair to compare ourselves, like Stephanie being a retailer. Now, of course, you're online, but Amazon being an online brand, you kind of have to give them all your information in order just for the transaction to go through. So they already have a bit of an edge on us. So just don't think that you need to be at that level to get started, right? So just to get to the question, I think, earlier, Scott had really kind of nailed it correctly. It's operationalizing it both internally at your store as well as towards your customers. So point of example for us when we were building bikes, it was very easy. I don't want to say I have 100%, but probably close to 100%, because if you're going to be making an important purchase like a custom bike, there's two things. One, you want to make sure that you get your bike, and two, well, it's a mode of transportation. For me, safety is very important. If there's ever any doubts that something should happen, I think it's important that I could reach you. And we would always sometimes we would obviously sell to people who weren't comfortable providing that information. And you know what, like I'm talking to Scott, say Scott comes in my store, Scott, not the marketeer that he is today, doesn't want to give me his information, but I know he's called Scott and I'm going to keep calling him Scott. But just for the sake of being able to reach out to him, like I can cut a deal with him, even though it's not ideal, I can still reach him and be like, look, Scott, you don't need to give me your last name. Like I really just want to be able to know that I'm reaching out to you. And at that point, I would wager that most people would be comfortable with, like, you know what, just put down my pet's name and put my phone number and my email. That way, if there's ever anything, like I'll know it's you. And it's like, it's okay. Look, it's a trade-off, but at the very least, I'm still able to offer Scott, or whatever your dog's name is, Scott, the service that he's expecting. And you're not going to win every time, but if you make a compelling argument, just like the products that you're offering or your services, people are going to go for it. But you have to tie it in.
Okay. And whoever wants to take this on, how can you cross-analyze data from social media, email marketing, and inventory management?
I think it'd be a shame if Scott didn't take that one on.
I'll jump on that. So all that data can come together, and you probably need some tool set to do it. My company makes one we're called Ascent 360. And the core idea is that we will pull in all that data from a tool like Lightspeed. We'll also pull in all the data from MailChimp, and we'll connect into Facebook and into Google Analytics, and all that data will come together. It isn't perfect, right? Not every click is a known click, but the ones that you do know, then all of a sudden you've got the tools to analyze the data and to build a simple model like RFM, or even more complex models. The idea is if you can start getting some sense of all those things, you can also then turn it into something that's simple, and you can act on it and go, kind of achieve the goal that your customer is actually asking for, and that is, some sort of more personalized experience, right? As I hear, Stephanie talking about her retail shop, it's so clear to me that she knows if someone is nervous to come into the store, right? She's using that data. And she also knows if they're not nervous about it as well. And those kind of simple things, that's the simple way to do it. There's also, you get a little bit more complicated. and start trying to bring together a bunch of different data sources. But I would implore you to just start simple, right? It's like start with the basics. If you're doing that well, then you can kind of move up a maturity model that might take a couple of years, but that's all right.
Stephanie, how helpful was social media has been in data collecting?
Yeah, social media is such, it's funny. It's almost like the beast of marketing, because you can post something and it still blows our mind as a small business. You can post something and all of a sudden you could see that same item that you posted being purchased simultaneously on the website. And it's crazy to think that someone could see something that's photographed, whether it's, a watch on your wrist or a handbag across your hip, and they could immediately see it and decide to turn it into a purchase. So for us, social media has always been almost like a hidden driver of the business, because yes, you need to post your product, but especially during the pandemic, even though we couldn't necessarily allow them or offer them the in-store shopping experience, we were still sharing with them a little bit of what we were doing while we were closed. So updating our store displays. We were, doing different promotions around, essential workers and frontline workers, nominate a nurse to receive this free bracelet. So you can turn social media almost into, it's how you perceive, how your brand is being perceived, not just based off sales, but also, your personality or who these people are behind the scenes. We have customers who know us, based off of their in-store shopping experience, but you almost have to mirror that same personalized shopping experience on your posts. So that way it still drives them into the store and they're still getting that same emotion of who they're talking to behind that screen as well. And one thing to add, a lot of, and I see here obviously with the questions, part of us in a small business and what we've realized, with data is you have customers who are standing right in front of you. And sometimes you have what they're looking for and sometimes you don't. And I know for our small business, we almost drilled it down to a really simple way to contact those customers who we don't have what they're looking for. So let's say, I don't know, Scott comes in looking for a gift for his wife and she loves, a gold necklace, and we don't have that, but we say, hey, Scott, we have this order coming in and it's a whole bunch of gold necklaces. Can I call you once this great shipment comes in? And Scott says, absolutely, our anniversary is coming up. So we have a customer inquiry book in our store where that employee jots down Scott's name and number or email, if that's what he prefers to be contacted on, and say, call Scott when the shipment arrives. So sometimes your best data is really simple. It's standing right in front of you. It's having that personalized conversation with the customer and thinking outside the box to be like, okay, I can get Scott back in my store because I know what he's looking for. I know we're going to have it. Let me reach out to him and let him know when it comes in. And Scott could very well have searched for that same gold necklace on Amazon, but they're not calling him back to let him know that they have what he's looking for.
Yeah, that's funny that you said that, because I think this comment speaks to that. A panelist, a viewer, I find the comment that Amazon catches all data interesting. But being an Amazon customer, I never receive advertisement or coupons or offers from Amazon. The only thing that draws me to them is expedient delivery options. So it's more, so, there's the mass kind of, there isn't the personalization. You're just at that kind of scale that other businesses are able to be nimble and pivot and be personal in a way that, so therein lies an advantage. I'm just curious. We only have a minute. Quick question. Any big data myth that you want to debunk? I know I'm throwing this out at you. Anybody hasn't.
The one I would debunk is that, big data is only for Walmart and Target and those guys. It's not. It's for everybody. 10,000 records is big data. So act on it. And I would just even quickly jump on what Stephanie was talking about, right? Like with the, hey, we don't have it in stock, it's a birthday, right? Next year, what if Stephanie sends a note and says, hey, look, I know your wife's birthday is coming up. I thought maybe these earrings might be the right thing. Do you want me to, pack these up and ship them to you? It's like, good God, yes, thank you. That would be awesome.
That's a great note to leave that on. Well, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much, Stephanie and Scott and Alex. And I'm Barbara Thau, and we're wrapping this up. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you as well. That was a lot of fun.
That's a lot of
Thank
fun.
you.
Thank you for having us.